Hi there, this is Shrikant Dasari. So in this lesson, we are going to learn how to use functions with arguments. Okay, so let me launch the IDE. So already I have created a project under the name function 3 here. Okay, which contains all the basic stuff. So, let us take two variables to demonstrate how to pass arguments or parameters within a function here. So let's take two variables a and b. Okay, so let us define a small function here which contains return type as void. It's a small dummy definition of a function which does nothing here, and also have a call to this like this, and also a prototype. Okay, so here we have all the basic stuff regarding functions which we have learned in the previous lesson. Okay, a prototype, okay, so calling, so all the basic stuff of the function, calling of the function, and the definition. Okay, so these, as we have learned from the previous lesson, so these three things are the basic essential for any function to execute properly. Okay, so the calling, there should be a proper calling, definition, and prototype. Okay, so here now our intention is to pass these two variables. Okay, so these two variables from our calling area, the main is the primary calling area for any function here, from our calling area to the function definition. Okay, so the main task is carried inside the function definition. Okay, so in order to pass those arguments, so we have to use something like this. The syntax of the calling changes a bit of what we have used without arguments. Okay, so if you don't have anything inside the braces of a calling function, you can say that as a function without parameters or arguments. Okay, so let us say parameters. um, so if we have something inside a function calling, they are known as parameters. Okay, so in order to handle these parameters, again you need to have another set of parameters inside the definition also. Okay, so since you are passing those values from the calling area, you need to have some two arguments here. Since you are passing two parameters from the calling area, you need to have two arguments or parameters here also in the definition, which are going to be like this: int a and int p. Okay, so the parameters, as you have observed, we have parameters in two different places, one inside the calling area and other in the definition. Okay, so let us remove this comment here. The parameters inside the calling area are known as actual parameters. Okay, so actual parameters, and the parameters which you are using inside the basis of the function definition are known as formal parameters. Okay, so here if you write a syntax, the sole purpose of this sum function which we are using in this demo is to just calculate the sum of these two variables. Okay, sum of these two variables. So in order to achieve that task, we are passing those two variables as arguments from our calling area to the definition. Okay, so here let us take another variable int c. Okay, so let us just calculate the sum of these two variables and just print the output to the screen. The sum of percentage %d and percentage %d is percentage %c. Let's have the complete printf statement, so for better understanding purpose. Okay, so here we have just calculated the sum of these two variables and just stored in all the basic stuff here, stored in the variable c, and just we have outputted those three variables in the sum here. Okay, so also we have to change our prototype since now we have to change the definition or the title of the function. We have arguments or parameters in our braces here. So according to the prototype, which is always the name of the function followed by the prototype is nothing but the name of the function followed by the semicolon. Okay, so let us change the prototype also here and keep the semicolon here. Okay, so now let us save and run the program. So if you see the observed output, we have got sum of these two variables or values, which is 30 obviously. Okay, so since we have used this task to be carried out using a function using arguments. Okay, so here we have taken two variables 10 and 20 and just we have sent those now here the a becomes 10 and the b becomes 20, which gets passed to this definition. Okay, now the value of a sits in this a and the value of b 20 sits in this b. Okay, so if you observe, the only difference between the actual parameters and formal parameters is in the formal parameters the variable is preceded by the data type here. Okay, and in the you need not explicitly specify the data type inside the formal or actual parameters. Okay, so here you can just have the the name of the variables or constant values. Okay, so you need not specify the type of the data type. Okay, the data type. Okay, so the one more thing, the whatever you are going to pass the arguments, they need not be the same here also. Okay, so you have flexibility to have the different set of variables for formal parameters. So here I am just changing those a and b to x and y. So accordingly we have to change in the function definition also. Okay, x, y and c. So just if you save and run the program, you get the same result, which is 10 and 20, which is sum of those two variables. Okay, so in the same way, so you need not always pass the variables. Okay, so you can also pass some constant values. Okay, like 33 and 66. Okay, so always according to the requirement of the programmer, he's always welcome to pass some constant values. Okay, so now 33 and 66 are the two constant values, which gets the 33 sits in this x and 66 gets passed from the calling area and sits in this y here. Okay, so again the sum is gets calculated. If you save and run the program, you just get the output as 99. Okay, so in the same way, you are having a flexibility to omit the type, the variable name inside the prototype. Okay, so if you say something like this and run the program, it works perfectly. So you need not always have the name of the variable inside the prototype. Also always it is a best practice to have everything, even though we have that kind of flexibility. Okay, 33 and 66, which is 99. Okay, so in the same way, but we need to be careful while passing the values to the functions. Okay, so we have a prototype here which says that the return type is void, which means that the function which we have defined does not return any value. Okay, the function which we have passed does not return any value and which has two arguments here. Okay, so we have a prototype which says something which informs the compiler that there are two arguments and the function has nothing to return. Okay, so now if you omit one argument here. Okay, so if you omit an argument and just pass one thing, one constant variable, you might get into problems here. Okay, it will throw an error. Okay, according to the prototype definition here, the function should always have two arguments. Okay, the function should always have two arguments. So it's mandatory always to have two arguments, or else it will throw an error whenever you have a prototype. So now what happens if you remove both of them, and simultaneously if you comment it out your prototype. Okay, so if you save and run the program, so again it throws you an error because firstly you have skipped the prototype, and next the function will not execute. Okay, since you don't have any arguments also here. Okay, so here the prototype is always the best practice to have prototype always. Okay, but in some compilers, okay, so if you, even though you comment it out your prototype, and if you change your void to int, okay, so if you do something like this and just have a return statement, okay, and just have a return statement here, so this might work in some compilers. Okay, so here, so the default or implicitly prototype, the return type int is set to the compiler sets automatically. Okay, so if you save and run the program, it works here. Okay, so but this might not be the case in other compilers. Okay, so some other compilers which you use for your convenience will demand a prototype always. Okay, so here just we have changed the return type to int, and we have just omitted or cleared the prototype here, but it worked normally. Here we are using Visual C++ 2005 Express Edition, which implicitly adds a prototype with of int return type int. Okay, so also we have if you observe here, we have omitted both the arguments here. Okay, so the default the value for this formal parameters would be 0. So that's the reason, even though you don't have any arguments here, nothing to pass from this calling area, you have just it's just calculating the result. It's just calculating the result as 0 because both the values are set to 0 by default. Okay, so in the same way, so if you have one argument, and if you save and run the program, you just get 0. Okay, so one gets substituted as 0, and the other variables value is x. Okay, so since you are passing 3, it sits in the x, and the y value is 0, and just the 0 and 3 gets added, and you get the output as 3 here. Okay, so in this case, if you have explicitly add your prototype to your function here, okay, if you add the prototype explicitly, okay, so what happens is, again, you might fall into trouble here. Okay, so now I am adding the prototype explicitly, and I am passing only a single argument, a single parameter here. Okay, so now it might throw you an error. Okay, since you are saying to the compiler explicitly that your function need to have two arguments, and when you are passing the function with one argument, the compiler will not recognize this function. Okay, it just thinks that there is no function of kind sum with one argument. Okay, and then it throws you an error. Okay, so let us have and both the arguments correctly. Okay, so 100 and 200. Let's save and run the program, just to get the output as 300. Okay, so this is the basic stuff about functions. Okay, functions with arguments. Let us change that int to void here, since we are not returning anything. It's always a good practice to have a void, and let's remove our return statement. Okay, so this is the basic stuff about functions with arguments here. So all we have done is we have taken two variables as arguments here, okay, which is a and b, or else you need not mandatorily pass the variables. You can also have some constant values here. Okay, so a and b, and just we have passed from the calling function, from calling area, which is primarily the main, to the definition. Okay, and just calculated the sum and just displayed. The function is invoked whenever you are calling a function. Okay, so save and run the program, we get the output as 13. Okay, so this is the basic stuff about functions with arguments. So see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.